My name is Nadia Moreira. I'm a PhD student at Nova University here in Lisbon. This is it's not a research related to my doctoral thesis. It's about a research that I was doing about parliamentary diplomacy, and I find out some interesting connections between international government organization and international parliamentary organizations. From this research, I want to show you the case of NATO Parliamentary Assembly, which I refer to hereafter as NATO PA to be more faster, and its role in consolidating the Article 2 of the North Atlantic Treaty. So, as I begin this presentation, it is appropriate to ask the starting question: how can NATO PA contribute to the consolidation of the Article 2 within NATO? Sorry, the slides are a little bit cuddled in the bottom, but by email I can send you the slides. I don't know why they are with this format. Also, as a contribution to the panel, and if I have time, I will try to specify in the short term how NATO PA and NATO has addressed the geopolitical and security issues of the Indo-Pacific region, and what are the direct implications for the Euro-Atlantic security. Well, NATO was created in 1949 in response to a growing threat posed by the Soviet communism and the Cold War tensions that developed between the United States and this Western alliance and the states of the Warsaw Pact. With only 14 articles, this document, the Letter of the Atlantic or the Charter of the Atlantic, was provided for the sharing risk, responsibility, and benefit of collective defense between the signatory states, enriched in the Article 5 mainly. And this article, it's being the basic principle of the alliance since the beginning. But there are other 13 articles, and here I'm trying to explain you a little bit more the Article 2. And what does it say, this Article 2? Well, the Article 2 of the North Atlantic Treaty plays an important role in establishing the fundamental principles and the objectives of the alliance. This article lays the foundations for cooperation, solidarity between NATO members, and it is crucial to the cohesion and function of the organization itself as international organization and not alliance of defense. In terms of fundamental principles, the Article 2 states that NATO members undertake to settle their international dispute by peaceful means and to maintain and develop their individual and collective capacity to resist armed attacks. This reflects the members' commitment to international peace, security, and stability. Also, in terms of multilateral cooperation, the parties shall endeavor to eliminate any opposition between their respective international economic policies and shall encourage economic collaboration between each of them. So the Article 2 is very different from the Article 5, which is better known. The Article 5 stipulates that an armed attack against one or more NATO member states is considered an attack against all members, and that members must take individual and collective measures to restore and maintain security in the North Atlantic region. Well, this is an article for collective defense. The Article 2, in the other hand, deals with the general principles of objectives of the alliance, just to develop of peaceful and friendly international relations by strengthening their free institution. In short, the Article 2 of the North Atlantic Treaty establishes the fundamental principles of cooperation, solidarity, and peace among NATO members, pillars that cement a community that share the same values, in fact, democratic values. This article brings to the treaty the fact that NATO is more than a collective defense alliance, but also a community of values united in its commitment to democracy, individual freedoms, human rights, and rule of law. And what about NATO PA? What is NATO PA and what it says about all this? Well, NATO PA, it's a parliamentary international organization, and dates the Cold War period when the growing tensions between the two superpowers led NATO members to look for various ways to strengthen the transatlantic ties between the United States and Europe. The idea of engaging the alliance parliamentarians in a collective deliberations of the problems confronting the transatlantic partnership first imagined in the early of the 50s. The proposal came from Norway and was aimed to create an interparliamentary institution within the central structure of the organization, which will facilitate the transatlantic interaction by strengthening the interparliamentary cooperation, using the parliamentary diplomacy as an instrument to facilitate the community between states. But this proposal did not receive sufficient support from the other states of NATO. Even so, the Canadian Parliamentary Association of NATO, that was founded in 1954, organized the first conference of members of the parliaments of NATO countries, which took place in Paris in 1955, and brought together 158 parliamentarians from, at the time, 14 member states of NATO. Here is the picture of one of the founders of NATO PA, the British MP Geoffrey de Freitas, that wrote on that time, the Interparliamentary Organization is a special forum for international parliamentary dialogue within a framework of security and economic affairs. And about the structure of NATO PA. Since its creation, NATO PA has provided a unique and specialized forum for parliamentarians from across the Atlantic Alliance to debate and influence decisions and security. The Assembly is institutionally separated from NATO. It's totally independent, but serves as an essential link between NATO and the parliamentarians of NATO countries. It provides a greater transparency for NATO's policies and promotes a better understanding of the alliance's goals and missions among legislators and citizens. Crucially, it helps to strengthen the transatlantic relationship and the values that underpin the alliance. NATO PA has an independent secretariat, an independent headquarters based in Brussels, just as NATO, and have an official structure, as you can see, composed by president, bureau, committees, and other special groups dedicated as NATO itself. How it works, the plenary sessions are annually in spring and fall, and normally before the NATO intergovernmental meeting, and the themes that are debated, most of them are the same that are debated after intergovernmental level. In each sessions, the committees produce thematic resolutions expressing the views of the Assembly in that area, which are voted and addressed for the North Atlantic Council in the form of resolutions. There are also the Rolls-Royce seminar that gives organized conferences, seminars that aim to support and develop parliamentary democracy in Central and Eastern European countries. And what about NATO and NATO PA? Well, how can we establish a connection? In 1956, the North Atlantic Council mandated three ministers of foreign affairs of Canada, Italy, and Norway, and what is known the Commission of Three, to prepare a report. This report, there is note of the report of the three wise men, proposed that as well as serving as a vehicle of political cooperation, the alliance should cooperate in areas such as economy, science, technology, and culture, as it says the Article 2. This view was shared by the Conference of NATO Parliamentarians, who believed that themselves should address not only the alliance's military dimension and concerns, but also in accordance with the Article 2, as I said, the whole spectrum of issues important to their community of nations based on shared values and common principles. In fact, the Assembly's creation reflected a desire of the part of the legislators of the NATO's countries to give substance to the premise of the Washington Treaty, especially Article 2, that NATO is an alliance of democracies above everything. In this context, the NATO PA has been institutionally separated from NATO, as I said, since its inception, although today is a fundamental link between the alliance and its member states. And why? Because through its debates, it promotes the sense of Atlantic solidarity in different national legislations in line with objectives of the Atlantic Alliance. NATO PA also lends democratic legitimacy and greater transparency to the measures approved by governments within NATO frameworks, while promoting a better understanding of its objective missions among alliance legislators and citizens. In addition to the traditional parliamentary functions of overseeing defense politics and armed forces, for example, the budget, and the deployment of forces abroad NATO, NATO PA seeks, by parliamentary diplomacy, to build consensus and guarantee transparency and create and maintain public support to NATO initiatives and international positions. So, trying to answer to my initial question, in NATO's geopolitical context, NATO PA is not just a forum for discussion, but a tangible embodiment of the intergovernmental organization democratic values. Since its foundation, the parliamentarians who make up NATO PA have wanted to contribute to the development and success of the Atlantic Ally through cooperation between the Atlantic nations and implementing the provisions of the Article 2. NATO PA is the only forum that regulatory brings together European and American legislations. It's the only one, and has helped to sustain the transatlantic relationship, shaping into a successful cooperation network and goes beyond the governmental sphere. The Assembly turned the functioning and policy of NATO more transparent and understandable for parliamentarians and their public opinion. NATO PA also helps states to want to join alliance to develop their democratic values by bringing them as observers to its meeting and training them. For all these reasons, while over the years NATO have spent too much time focusing on military potential of the Article 2, while forgetting the strategic political importance of other articles of the founding documents, NATO PA has sought to go further on its actions, focusing mainly on the importance of the non-military problems like economic, culture, and scientific issues over the years have been fundamental for the consolidation of NATO and its presence right up to the present day. Well, I have here a small contribution that I just let you slide. It's just to say that just right before the strategic the strategic concept of NATO for 2030. Sorry, I think. Countries like Japan, Australia, and Republic of Korea a long time ago participated in NATO PA meetings, but I ask you to read in the future my essay that explains this in more detail. Thank you very much for your attention.